from the Echo Network Studios here in Royal Oak, Michigan. This is Odd Musings, and we are your hosts. I'm Brett Pinson.
And I'm Scott Zambelli.
And today we're joined by James Erik Hodson.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Now you go by Erik, of course. That's how we all know you.
Yep.
But you got this James name that we had to, when I'm looking for you on the Facebook, I got a message Erik, so I put in Erik. I'm like, oh, that's right. He's got that James name in front of Erik and all that stuff. So, you're like two names. We're going to call you two names.
It's my father's first name, my grandfather's first name, I think great-grandfather's first name. So it's it's a family type thing.
That's good.
Well, that'll work then.
Now, so the first name has been passed on, but the middle name's been different? Is that how it's been?
Yep.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
I always wondered why the James was there, and I should start calling you Jimmy.
That's not.
I've always known you as Erik, and then Facebook is where I'm like, where is Erik? And I'm like, who's this James guy?
Yeah. Who's James? It must be like his evil twin brother or something like that,
Your account got hacked.
And I look at the pictures like, but he doesn't have a goatee.
My picture's always my cat. So.
Yeah.
That's right.
May you rest in peace.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
That's right. Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of people with their pets lately posting their people losing pets a lot lately.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I lost mine 3.5 years ago. And
you did?
Miss them every day, but I had them 16 years. When you have I think you have an animal that long, you're gonna miss them because they're part of the family at that point.
Yeah, I had Spaz for 14 years, and it'll be a year that he's been gone the 29th this month. So
you'll have to have a popsicle in honor.
Something.
That's right. Something.
So, but yeah, we got Erik joining us today. Kind of a quick thing. We got asked to shoot a little video for you after the show, and called up, messaged us, and said, "Hey, you want to be a guest?" He's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, Erik, you've got a lot of exciting things going on right now, and
it is. It's a strange time in my life.
Yeah,
usually it's very boring.
Yeah.
Well, what's been going on in these last couple weeks for you? We always like to catch up for ourselves, and
well, obviously, doing the show circuit still pretty hard and heavy. I was just in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And then I was in Chicago twice. Once for Wizard World Chicago, and then for All In Starcast, which is a wrestling event.
Okay, and you were there with Dominic.
Yep. Brought Dominic along with me. We starting to actively advertise our new officially licensed Roddy Piper comic book. Which
excellent. We'll be talking about that this hour for sure.
News, yeah.
That's awesome.
I think so, because you're a big wrestling fan. I know at the shows you've got a lot of artwork based on different wrestling peoples and stuff like that, and you've mashed up some comic style covers with that, which is really awesome. And that, so you've been doing a lot of shows in that lately, and of course, home life. You're married.
Mm-hmm. Yep, married. Got a 14-year-old daughter in high school. And
yep.
If there's a support line for that, I need the number. Actually, she's doing really well.
It's called prayer.
It's called actually it's the 1-800-JIM-BEAN.
Yeah.
This is teenagers in school. This is why box wine exists.
Yes,
exactly.
Well, there's two things I deliver when I do the SHIP program. I deliver a lot of wine to kids or parents with newborns.
Yep.
And then I deliver a lot of wine to parents with teenagers. And it does switch. It goes from the bottles with the babies to the boxes with the teenagers. Because they're just laying on the couch with the bottle, just the thing going, okay, it's just either with the box just to hold the button down and let it just pour in my mouth.
Definitely.
Well, cool. So you got a full family life going on there. Yeah. You're doing a lot of traveling and all that stuff. You were telling us, your 14-year-old started high school, and we were kind of comparing how high schools are. Like for Scott, it was high school was started at 10th grade.
Yeah.
For me, it was 9th grade.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I had junior high, and then halfway through junior high, they turned it into middle school. Suddenly, there's these pretty 6th graders mingling. Like, come on, I thought it was.
It kind of changed in a lot of the area. There's not many junior highs left. I think it's almost all middle schools now.
Yeah.
The whole motif how this changed on that, because I mean for us it was junior high, and then they created a new middle school, but they added the 6th graders in to create the middle school in my district. But when I was there, it was just 7th and 8th grade. So it all changes. It's kind of interesting how it's kind of progressing over the years.
Well, now you got some school districts switching to the all-year program. Format, which is interesting because it's still the same number of days, so they have more breaks in between.
Yeah, instead of doing the full summer break, you get a couple, 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off, whatever.
Here, like every couple months, you get a couple weeks off.
It's like they go quarterly, so they go these quarters, and they get a few weeks off, a few weeks off. So it's not a full summer off. I think it's an interesting thing. I know they've explored that for years in different districts, and that trying to figure out if that's a better way to learn. Because they always say after 3 months off, you forget so much.
Yeah, they always say you lose like 2 months. I think it is after 3 months off, and then so the first 2 2 months is just playing catch up. And with the all-year program, they don't have to play that catch up. And what the study I read said, going the same amount of school days, you get the equivalent of a whole extra year of school by doing the all-year program, because you're not playing that catch-up portion every single year.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, because I remember even in school, the first 6 weeks was more of, here's a review of your last year.
Yeah.
And they still don't teach anything, because kids are still graduating. They can't balance a checkbook. They don't know how to buy stuff.
Well,
they don't know how to save money.
Well, that's
a whole other
family.
That I completely agree with. And then what they are teaching is
all they teach, they spend half the year.
Is just insane.
Well, in Michigan, they spend half the year teaching them how to take the MEP test.
That's
and that's because their funding's tied into it.
Yep.
So if they get away from that and then just go back to actual teaching, I think it'd be better. So.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but this isn't about teaching.
No.
And to you teachers,
I appreciate
the teachers.
No,
of you.
Appreciate. I got a lot of cool teachers I know out there.
I have a master's in art education.
Oh
and I taught for a little while. So
you did. That's right. You did do some teaching.
Part of my background.
Oh, you're a master. Mm-hmm. We are in the presence of a master.
I get people all the time that at the shows, and I know you guys have heard this too. Oh, I can't draw a stick figure. Well, yes, you can.
Yeah. My answer is always, well, good news. I've never been asked to draw a stick figure, so it's okay if you don't know how to draw one.
Well, see, I'm always like, neither can I, but that's okay. Matt Fazell draws them all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's the master.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's the master of the stick figure. He draws, masterwork paintings recreated as stick figures, and they're awesome. And that stuff. So you gotta love that stuff. So yeah, you got a master's in art. I remember you taught some classes when we first met. You were teaching a little bit and different art and stuff like that. So you're not teaching anymore.
Nope.
And that, but you are still technically teaching, because when we do go to shows, you talk to people. We're kind of instructing them on how much money they need to spend with us.
Well, every encounter with a person is an opportunity to either educate them or make them dumber. So I try to always go in the positive direction.
See, and I always go with the Billy Madison thing, where the guy looks at everybody and goes, "We are all now dumber because of what you just said."
At least you're not peeing your pants because it's cool.
No, not anymore. That passed in 2002. So it's not cool anymore to pee your pants. So we were talking before we got here. Nice thing is Eric met us for breakfast, and we all watched Jack Ryan.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we've all gotten through that series now.
Jack Ryan was awesome.
It was
8 episodes. I love series that aren't trying to have too many episodes. They're going to tell a solid story. So we didn't have a fluff episode, as I like to call them. There wasn't an episode like, we're going to spend an hour and it's really not going to tie into anything, but we have to have something.
It's the musical episode this week. Jack Ryan does music.
Yeah. Even starting to build his relationship with his would-be wife, they don't hand that up either.
Right.
No, what I like is it's not rushed, and they rushed the bride, I should say, but but at the same time, she's kind of like, I don't want to get hooked up or anything. I just want to have fun right now, and you're busy, I'm busy, and then she finds out what he does, and it's like, ooh.
Now, I wanted to ask, are you guys familiar with the character outside of the show?
I watched all the movies. Okay. I never read the books. I love the movies. Alec Baldwin with Hunt for Red October. We had Harrison Ford with Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger. And then they had, I know Affleck did the one, and then Chris Pine did one.
Tom Clancy fans disavow the Affleck one because that was such a deviation from the original story.
Yeah, it was completely different.
I didn't even bother watching that one. No.
I've seen it, and I've seen the Chris Pine, and they were okay, but they weren't Tom. They weren't the Jack Ryan stories. Really, Baldwin and even Harrison Ford playing old man Jack Ryan at the time, which was still like 20-something years ago when he was in his 50s, but it was old man Jack Ryan at that point.
Now that was young Harrison Ford, back when he was...
But that would have been a retired CIA analyst at that point.
I give a shout out to my dad, because my dad is a huge Tom Clancy fan. That and Clive Cussler, I think he's got pretty much every book.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kind of grew up with all those books always being around, and in college I started getting an interest to actually start reading some of it myself. So, and Hunt for Red October, the book and the movie, they're pretty similar in storyline.
Right.
And it's one of my favorite, actually, movies of all time.
Oh, it's a great film.
And
or it's got Sean Connery in it.
You can't beat Sean Connery. So, and he's
doesn't he have a Russian accent in it?
He was excellent.
He's like, dive. Quebec, remember when I did that to your mom?
Not quite the same.
That was the deleted scene.
I was hunting for a different October.
Different Red October, huh? Okay.
Do you need to slip on your tea too?
No, I never read the book, but the book came out like around 84, 85, I believe it was, around October. There, yeah. And then the movie came out in 90. So it was still in the heart of the Soviet era of the Cold War, towards the end of it and stuff like that. So dealing with that issue on film, really translated well to what was going on in the real world. It was really interesting, and that's what makes it such a great movie. It was at time, and when you go back and watch it, it's still, because it doesn't feel dated, but it's actually a piece of time in
Well, for us, we're all pretty much in the same age bracket. We're kind of the tail end of the Cold War kids, where we grew up with the Berlin Wall being a thing.
We grew up where the Russians were always the bad guys in the movies.
Exactly.
Yep. And everyone had an Uzi. Whereas now, it's always some terrorist group.
Yeah, it's a radical Islamic terrorist group.
So all over the last 15, 20 years has been all the Islamic, much more than that now. But
like the Jack Ryan story, even had this series been made 20 years earlier, he would have been fighting Russians.
Right. Yeah. Instead of fighting the communists, now we're fighting the extremists.
Right. So,
and I'll say something for the storyline for this was so plausible.
Definitely.
That's one of the reasons why it's such an engrossing show, is because you're like, okay, I need to kind of game day watch this so that if something like this starts to happen.
That's the part that scares me, though, is I think they do too much research now, and you could give people ideas now. That actually could work if I'm a bad guy.
Well, that's another thing about Clancy. Clancy was such a prolific writer, and he had a military background that a lot of the stuff in his books, some of it did come true.
Well, Clancy many times he was brought in by quite a few times from the government saying, okay, this is in your book. How do you know about this?
But didn't he?
And he's like, well, I just created it. And they're like, but we're actually doing that.
But wasn't he, didn't he create the 9/11 scenario?
Yeah, it was
beforehand. He said that was a possibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was actually 9/11. Seeing people post stuff for the last couple of weeks, so we had the anniversary yesterday.
Yeah.
People were posting it here. It was in these couple cartoons from the early 90s showing that actually happening. So it was planes into the towers and into the Pentagon. It was done in some of the Iron Man cartoon in the 90s and Fantastic Four cartoon. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, but that was stuff that was speculated for a long time ago. But it was also, when we go back and look, they talked about that happening when their first bomb went off in the Trade Center in 93. That was the goal of some of these groups, was they wanted to destroy the economic function of not just the U.S. but the world. And that's the building to do it in.
And it's also it was a symbolic structures.
Yes.
Because it was symbolic of the entire economy of the world.
Right. So, but that was, no get too deep into that. But yeah, Jack Ryan's awesome. I love the fact, like I said, 8 episodes. It was like Stranger Things. It was just story. And we got great backstory on the main bad guys, and you learn about it. And in some ways, they do humanize them a little bit, and you see where they came from to become where they are. Don't necessarily always agree with everything that happens on either side, but at the same time, it shows that story more than just saying, well, they're just bad guys because they're bad guys.
Yeah, I mean,
we learned what happened in their lives to progress them down that path.
Yeah, and there's a hallmark of really good writing is because you can actually sympathize on some degree with the bad guys. They're presented as human beings, not just these blind targets to be shot at.
Right.
And that brings you into the story even more.
Yeah, so I found that out. It was pretty cool. So I like that. So hopefully we'll get a second season. I think we will. I've seen too many people commenting about it online.
I thought
Amazon would be done to renew.
Well, I mean, they promoted it for several months. I mean, for every time I turn on Amazon Prime, there it was coming August 30th. And this was December, January, February. It's months.
Oh yeah. And that show was too good, and the response, it's definitely coming back.
It was what I wanted Homeland to be on Showtime. A good, solid story into these things, and not about someone's mental side of it.
Do you guys think this is a defining role for Jim Ryan?
You mean Jack Ryan?
Jim Ryan.
Jim Halpert. John Krasinski.
Jim Halpert.
Too many. Jim Halpert. It's too many J's.
Well, I think it's a defining role in a number of ways. This and The Quiet Place. Or Quiet Place, yeah.
That I haven't seen yet, but it's definitely on the
list. He's had a lot going on.
Because he directed that as well.
Yeah.
So he is really showing himself to be quite diverse.
He's one of the smart people out there that says, okay, I have ideas, and he's trying to. He had a hit show for a while he was on, and instead of saying being pigeonholed, he started doing other stuff, and now he ends up on this show here, which I think is a great leap for him. And
he was excellent in 13 Hours, which is another reason why he's such a good fit.
And he had an epic beard going. gotta say.
Yes, it is.
But he really, this has been an interesting period for him because the role he did as Jim in The Office was such an iconic role. People still identify him and, oh God, I'm forgetting her real name, but Jim and Pam. When I see them, I still think Jim and Pam.
That's the picture you drew too, was of them.
Yeah, and
I've never really watched the show. I've only caught a couple episodes here and there. So
they're like the defining couple.
If you want to get the very best out of it, go to YouTube and look up the best of Jim Halpert's pranks.
Oh God, yeah.
On Dwight.
Here's my thing with that. Gosh. How early did Jim have to get into the office every day to set up those elaborate pranks? He had to be getting in at like 3 a.m.
Oh sure, especially waiting for like when he put his stapler in Jell-O. You know,
yep.
I mean,
he was the hardest working non-working guy there was in the office.
Wrapping everything of Dwight's in wrapping paper for Christmas.
Like they even had an episode where he admitted he had one account that made him a ton of money. So every year that account made him the commission he needed for the year, and then he could slack the rest of the year.
See, that's what we all want.
But
you got to show up every day. But I'm not really working. I just have to deal with this one account, and then I'm covered.
But he's really struck that balance where you can totally identify him as the comedic, nerdy, geeky guy, but you can also identify him as this amazing, badass action guy now.
Yeah.
And I mean, he worked at it. I mean, when his shirt's off in Jack Ryan, he has a superhero physique now. He could play a superhero.
Yeah, that was the thing. Was he wasn't just this as a PhD doctor, Jack Ryan. He's not just a learned guy. He's got a physical part to him, which we see right at the beginning. First scene, what do we see? He's riding a bicycle to work. Of course, he almost gets hit by the guy that ends up being his boss.
That was great.
And as soon as that happened, I was like, "That's his boss."
Oh, yeah. See, I didn't get when he walked in.
One is I recognize the guy as a character I've seen in many things.
Okay.
Number two was what happened. I was like, okay, that's his boss. And then when you see him sitting there waiting to go in, I was like, oh yeah, there it is.
I don't know that actor's name, but he was excellent casting to kind of fill the shoes that James Earl Jones solidified in the movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I liked how his character was. His character was really cool. In fact, when you see him on the field, it's like, okay, he's no slouch himself.
Right.
He can handle himself very well.
They really nailed that well, that character.
And he's got a lot to prove because he's been basically coming into this division where Ryan's at. He was demoted, and now he's got to build back up. And after everything happening, I mean, he's in the first episode. This is not a spoiler, but he says it right away. It's like this could be the Bin Laden moment, and that's a key moment in our history. And they're dealing with that, with finding something new, a new cell basically that you're dealing with. Yeah. So go watch Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime.
Now, do you guys find, you had mentioned like these 8-episode formats where there's no fluff and stuff? In a way, these series, because they're so good, they're kind of ruining movies for me. And because the 8-episode format, it's long enough that you can get true character development, get really into who these characters are, but also have awesome action and everything else. Because when you have 20 episodes, the budget is spread out so thin, they can't do much in one episode. But when it's 8 episodes, they got enough money to really have... They like Jack Ryan. It's filmed like a film.
Yeah, it's you look at it, you look at Jack Ryan, you look at like Stranger Things. These are all 8-9 episode type series,
and they're shot like movies.
And they're shot like movies. They're shot as film, and each episode leads into the next one. And it's like when we got to the episode with the basically was the flashback of learning who the bad guys were when they were younger, 20 years ago. What led to this happening with them?
Whereas if this was done as a movie, so much of that would have been cut out.
Oh no, that whole hour of learning about these guys would have been 5 minutes.
Right. So now when I watch a regular movie, the action is cool, but I feel shortchanged on the character development because I'm getting used to the 8-hour
and the bingeability of it. Where if you wanted to, you could sit in one day and watch this whole thing.
And I think this is where the Marvel movies are actually working. Is really, if you think about it, the Marvel movies are a giant Netflix series.
Yes,
it's you're getting a 2-hour episode every 3 months. You know what I mean? And it's building this larger story arc.
Right.
And instead of it being a 2-hour movie, it's a 2-hour episode that's part of a larger episode for Marvel. That's what it feels.
And when you go back and watch them after a few more movies come out, like when I watched Winter Soldier the other week, I hadn't watched it in a couple years, and
you start seeing how things are connected.
Oh, wait a minute. How did I miss that one line that tied in everything that we just saw?
Because at the moment, it seemed insignificant. Right. But then now with hindsight...
At the time, I was like, oh, it's cool. They're acknowledging all their characters. And then I was like, oh, Doctor Strange. Here's Stephen Strange. They're mentioning him. It's like, they already know who he is.
Yep.
And he's not even Doctor Strange yet.
Correct. Yeah. So it's really cool how that goes. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying these 8-episode formats where they get so deep into the character development, but it's not so fluff where it's like the musical episode comes out.
Well, it's like Kevin Miner on here said he loves like Santa Clarita. It's 10 episodes, half hour each. It's perfect. It's boom, 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 and takes care of that. So
it's Santa Clarita.
Santa Clarita.
Santa Clarita diet.
Yes.
What's funny is I actually there's an artist named Chris Thorne I know. He lives on the West Coast. He actually lives in Santa Clarita. So it's funny. I've known this forever, but when this came out, now it's like, oh, I know where you live now. You have that zombie lady living in your neighborhood.
Exactly. The apocalypse, all called by what, fish?
Yeah. Funny how a show now makes a town relevant.
Exactly. Well, it's like I Love Psych, and then it's all set in Santa Barbara. Though they shot it in Canada.
Well, you guys were talking about Ozark earlier today, and that's where I grew up. So kind of in the Ozarks.
Well, after we get through watching season 2, we'll have to have you back and talk about living in the Ozarks.
That series is really the current Breaking Bad.
Yes.
That's probably the best scenario.
I haven't started watching it yet. I'm really intrigued by it.
Yeah.
Did you watch season 1?
No.
Oh, you need to.
If you like Breaking Bad, you'll like Ozark.
Jason Bateman's awesome.
He does.
He really he makes the show for me.
Yeah.
But what makes our show for us is actually our sponsors.
Our sponsors.
So I got to talk about Loringer Family Chiropractic, which I was just there yesterday, because your journey to wellness begins here. You can build a healthy lifestyle with chiropractic care. At Loringer Family Chiropractic Center PC, they take great pride in providing the finest chiropractic care to each and every patient. They offer on-site digital x-rays, massage therapy, orthotics by foot levelers, young living essential oils, aromatherapy, full line of vitamins, all with a family-oriented environment. Give them a call at their Belleville location, 734-697-4244. Besides Belleville, Michigan, they are located in Dexter, Michigan. And eventually we'll get Dr. Corinne out here once we can get some things figured out and talk about some chiropractic care. And as I talked about on previous episodes, I go there every week. I definitely had to go yesterday, and after working hard all weekend, got a lot of lower back area stuff was out of line and still kind of feel a little bit in the hip. So I'm getting some new things going out of whack as the seasons are changing, of course. And chiropractic care helps me feel better, keep going as much as I keep going. So.
Yeah. So I just went to a chiropractor yesterday, so I highly recommend going.
Oh, they do great work, and definitely. Even if you're healthy, they keep your health in order. I mean, your back is so important to what you do. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Well, as they talk about, I've seen different chiropractors say, they talk about it's like the tree, it's the branch, and you got to keep that branch straight and allows the nerves to move. And if your nerves are working right, everything else is flowing right, and it's letting you know what hurts, what doesn't hurt, as well as getting the right signals you need.
Yeah, like what I've been told in the past is the nerve. We associate nerves with pain, but that's only 10% of a nerve's function. The other 90% is regulating your blood pressure and your heart rate and all these things, and how your body does digestion, and everything is regulated through your nervous system. And you got to keep your nervous system healthy, and that's what chiropractors do by keeping your spine healthy.
Exactly.
So if you want to feel great, go to Loringer Family Chiropractic.
Yep. Belleville, Michigan, Dexter, Michigan. Give them a call. Yep. And you can also find them on oddmusics.com or on their website at LoringerFamilyChiropractic.com.
Also, if you have a business you want us to talk about, let us know. We'd love to have you as a sponsor. So we have space for another sponsor or two right now.
Yes, we do. Definitely that. So now, Eric, we're going to switch gears from having a little fun talk to having some more fun talk, but more about you directly.
Okay.
So, who is Erik Hodson?
Who is Erik Hodson? But you have I don't know, do we call it a condition? I know it's an autoimmune disease.
Correct.
And how do you pronounce it?
Scleroderma.
Okay.
It's Latin for hard skin.
Scleroderma. So
that's right.
That's a word that we're not going to say very much of because it's hard to say.
Now technically, scleroderma. One thing I love about Erik, besides just being an awesome person, is you don't allow your condition to define you.
Well, I think that's the great challenge of life, is we all have something that we're struggling with, and if we let that control us, then where are we?
Right, like I have mentioned before, I have lupus. What I used to say is I have lupus. Lupus doesn't have me. I'm not going to allow it to define what I can or cannot do. And your story is pretty amazing, because while you said the translation is hardening of skin, it's really the hardening of soft tissues, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just
there's an overproduction of collagen that happens in the joints, which is why my hands are all frozen up the way they are, and there's a lot of other associated illnesses that go along with it. So some of the stuff that I've read, there's anywhere from 15 to 25 different separate illnesses that are all kind of working together to kill you, basically.
Yeah, it's your own body's immune system has turned against itself.
Pretty much, yeah. And there's all sorts of reasons for autoimmune. Some research says it's viral. So if there's a virus in there that's causing things to go haywire in the body, you get that rooted out, then sometimes that can clear up. But other than that, it's still largely a mystery.
I always hear it's a blend of genetics with environment, with whatever. When these things come together, it causes...
I'd read that too, that there's usually an environmental trigger for a genetic component to turn it on. And when I was working before college, I had certainly an environmental trigger where I took this giant blast of ammonia vapor to the face, unloading trucks at a Walmart.
Now, see, usually when we hear that in our line of work, it turns you into either a superhero or mainly a supervillain.
Well, no, it's more like the episode of Family Guy where the mayor went to the toxic waste dump to get powers, and then he just had lymphoma. That's the reality.
That's the reality of superpowers.
So I was unloading this lemon-scented ammonia cleaner, which, I mean, ammonia is bad as it is, but then you add lemon to it. That doesn't make it any better. Yeah. And it just fell off the truck and busted open. I had a task to clean it, and I just bit down in this huge cloud, and it put me on my back pretty quickly, and kind of came to. And from then on out, I started having more and more health problems. Raynaud's developed while I was in college. My hands started turning blue and white.
And Raynaud's is where the circulation isn't going all the way. It's not circulating well.
Your body basically thinks that when it catches a chill, that it's going to freeze to death. So it draws all your blood out of your extremities to protect your core.
Oh, so that's what it's doing for Raynaud's. Okay.
And then tissue starts to die, it can become gangrenous and all these other problems. So I dealt with that, trying to be an artist and a graphic designer for a long time, which is very nerve-wracking. And then I finally got to the point where I had enough of a job working at Starbucks that they provided insurance, so I was able to finally go to a doctor and get diagnosed. And now it's mostly pain management and lifestyle changes.
Right. Now, how quickly did it progress in you physically where with your hands? Now, with your hands, you say they're frozen. You can't even straighten them. Like, can you forcibly straighten your fingers?
Try it.
Yeah, it's really frozen.
Put your weight into it.
Yeah, it's stuck that way.
It's kind of a superpower.
Yeah, but it's kind of like if I remember your
concrete joints.
Well, he's got the right thumbs for what we talked about off there about wrestling.
It's almost like your joints are becoming fossilized. Like they're becoming.
Yeah, it actually kind of feels that way too. You feel it with the muscle and everything else. It is definitely hard.
Yeah, I'm literally trapped in my skin, and there's tightening around the face, which is why I haven't developed a lot of fine lines by age 40 that we normally do.
At least you'll keep your
youthful appearance. Yeah.
But what amazes me with you is with what I was going to ask is how quickly did it progress, like in your hands? Because for everyday functions, our hands are so vital to everything we do. We drive, hold our phones, draw. When you're drawing, you're holding your pencils. Our fingers are so crucial to so much, and yet you've adapted. You drive, you draw, you can hold your phone. I don't think I've ever seen something you can't do. I mean, you do these crazy shows.
Well, don't follow me to the bathroom.
Well, I don't care what you can do. I don't want to follow you there anyway. But in all seriousness, like your show schedule, you do 30 plus shows a year. You're driving across the country. You're carrying all this stuff, setting it up. I know you have limits. Everyone has limits, but you really push yourself and you can do so much. How fast did it progress from where you had full functioning of your hands and other body parts to where you had to start making these lifestyle changes?
Once the stiffening started, it was pretty much where it is now within about a year or two.
So that quickly it progressed where you had to really, and you, a lot of people would have gave up at that point. You knew how to draw based on fully functioning hands. You had to retrain yourself.
Yeah, mostly they try to train you this in art school anyway, to use mostly your shoulder and not worry about your wrist and hands for fine skills. So I really had to rely on that a lot, and that's pretty much the only way that I do draw now when I'm starting out. And also, another big adaptation was all the digital tools.
Yeah.
Were finally starting to come out. And one of the other problems with having this illness is that your skin becomes extremely sensitive. It dries out super easily. And like one of the things, I can't stand touching paper bags, the cardboard.
The coarseness?
Yeah,
you can
the
feel
texture and coarseness of it. It's like sandpaper. It's just kind of nerve-wracking.
So your skin actually becomes hypersensitive.
In some ways it does, and in some other ways it becomes so dull. Like I can take scalding hot temperatures a little while longer than most people before I really notice it, because there's a lot of nerve damage as well.
That's why you like going in those hot tubs.
Yeah, well, that helps the joints relax because they're all so bound up and tight.
Yeah, because I know when we've traveled with you before, and like you really work yourself hard all weekend, and at the end of the day, a lot of times, like if the place has a hot tub, you're going to want to. You like to go in there to help your body kind of decompress, because you'll be pretty tight by the end.
I have to take a really hot shower every morning just to loosen up enough to get through the day. And my days are getting shorter now. My age combined with the illness is really starting to catch up with me, and really that's just part of my personality. Is like I could see an end to this, being able to function. So I want to try to do as much as I can and pack it into as small amount of time as I can.
Yeah.
Hopefully leave my family in a better place financially and stably.
Right.
When it becomes time for me to be less independent.
Right. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, since I've known you since 2010, I think, roughly then, maybe 2012 in that range. But I don't know where you get your energy from. You're saying you're slowing down with age. I need naps in the middle of the day.
Well, yeah, I totally need. I give the glory to God, because He basically showed me that He could take away something and give it back.
Oh yeah.
And,
but in addition to doing all these shows, you've done a few mission trips, going halfway around the world.
Yeah. And I've been to India and I've been to Africa.
Yeah, and you're going into conditions where it's not like you're staying in a hotel room with all the amenities.
No. Africa was wonderful because we stayed with the family that our church supported, and the opportunity to present itself. Once they learned that I was an artist, I ended up doing this 12-foot by 10-foot mural showing the different passages, like the birth of Christ, the resurrection, and the cross, all the three stages. And it's hanging in this small church in Ivory Coast.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was all done with enamel paint. There wasn't anything else to choose from, so I had to do all the color mixing. And
you went really old school.
I drew the whole thing in Sharpie, and then I had some of the family younger kids and some of my fellow church members that went with me, and kind of tasked them to color in these areas and help them mix the paint and stuff.
Well, that's cool too, because
they had primary enamel colors.
Yeah,
that was all we had to work with.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And when you arrive at these places, like you had a really long trip from the airport to where you were going. It wasn't like it was like you just got a little taxi and drove 15 minutes. You're
17-hour plane ride, and
yeah, I don't know how you do it. I really don't. But that's amazing. So with to wrap up, not to wrap up, but with the scleroderma, there's a foundation that you'll support sometimes. I'll see you post about it. Let people know, like, what are some of the symptoms for people to look for, and how do they find help if they have those symptoms to get diagnosed, and who is the foundation? And
the best place you can go to start learning about this is scleroderma.org, and from there you can get to wherever your state's local foundation. Here in Michigan, it's the Michigan chapter, run by a very lovely lady named Laura Dias, and she is a very hard worker for getting patients the information they need, connecting people with doctors, and just general support. There's lots of smaller support communities that are around that the foundation also supports, so that's small group stuff. And really, education is the biggest thing. If you think that you've got something going on in your life where you're starting to notice changes, maybe it's with Raynaud's. That's a very common thing that comes with scleroderma. In fact, if you are having circulatory issues like that and there's nothing else going on, you should definitely get it checked out, because Raynaud's typically comes with other things. It can come with lupus. It can come with lots of other different autoimmune diseases that kind of like.
I know for me, I get my fingertips. I don't get to the point where they're blue, but my fingertips are almost all constantly cold, like really cold. But they don't get to the point of turning blue, so I don't have it that bad. But that was one of the symptoms they told me about with the lupus too, was the fingers getting cold and things like that. So, well, very good. Thanks for sharing about that. And on another note, you have some really cool projects now on the art side.
Sure.
So let's talk about your personal thing first before we get into the Rowdy Piper thing. Dreaded Dinosaur. Tell us about Dreaded Dinosaur.
Dreaded Dinosaur Man is my first new IP in many years. I started out publishing my Melby comics back in 2005 while I was still adjusting to my onset of scleroderma.
That's about when we first met.
Yeah, we did.
Motor City and all that.
Staying together at AdventureCon, Tennessee and all that. Yeah. But during the course, after that kind of ran its course, I realized it wasn't going to, help me live. It wasn't going anywhere. And so I did focused on my teaching, got my master's finished, did some teaching, and then after that kind of petered out, again, because of health, I realized that I would become more of a liability to the students than a benefit. So it was time for me to step away from trying to do that. And then I got back into doing the art scene and just kind of focused on developing my skills more. Started seeing a light at the end of the tunnel with that. And now for the longest time, it's just been burning on me. It's like, okay, I need to tell my own stories again. Mm-hmm. So Dreaded Dinosaur Man, right now it's exclusively on the Webtoon platform, which is a really great vertical scrolling webcomics platform. You can download the app on your phone and subscribe to. There's thousands of different stories up there. And there's 2 episodes out right now. He's on hold while I'm still working on it, but not as a fast a pace because, like you said, I've got this other project coming up pretty quickly here.
So for Dreaded Dinosaur Man, how do people find that and follow it to read it and help support
Well, it's been out there enough where you can definitely look it up just like a basic Google search. But the best thing is just go to webtoon.com, download the app, and search for Dinosaur Man. It'll pop right up and subscribe.
And this Webtoon page, there's many different. So if they subscribe on there, they can actually follow many different stories.
Oh yeah, there's thousands of different genres. There's a lot of manga on there because Webtoon is originally a Korean company.
Okay.
And they're trying to get a real big foothold here in the United States.
I know I ran into them in Denver a couple years ago. They were set up.
Oh yeah, they've been kind of going around the country to different Comic Cons and sponsoring artist alleys.
Nice.
To help promote themselves and to find new talent. That's more U.S. based.
Awesome.
Now with Dreaded Dinosaur Man, you're posting on Webtoon. Any plans down the road? Like, is this something you might accumulate and then publish as a hard copy to sell at shows too?
That's certainly a possibility, but right now my evil plan is to have a core story on Webtoon, have a print book that supports that.
Okay, and then so it'd be a different story tie in.
So if you want to know the whole complete story, you've got the app, you got to buy the book, maybe play the video game.
Or pay Eric $1 billion.
See, I knew it. He got blasted in the face with pneumonia, and now he has an evil plan. You became an evil scientist.
He's Mr. Glass.
Yeah. The core story of Dinosaur Man basically follows this. He's a hero of the story, but he's also dealing with this animal side of him. He's basically a guy with the head of a dinosaur. And I don't want to get into too many spoilers about how that came about, but he has this now monstrous side to him that he's ashamed of. And he wants to try to rectify and make his life right by being this hero. But he kind of has to learn along the way because he can easily lose control. And you see that in the first couple of strips where he gets hit by this. He's jumping down trying to get to these bad guys who kidnapped this woman, selling her into slavery. And he misses his impact and gets hit by the vehicle. And that just sends him into Lunacyville, where he becomes the monster, and it doesn't work out well for anybody involved, and he's very regretful after the fact. So he's got this struggle, which is an amplification of the struggle we all have. We all have this dark side to us that we constantly are in struggle with. So it's kind of this.
So does
back and forth.
Do you explore just challenges like how do you fit into a car with a giant dinosaur head?
Well, it happens in this fantasy sci-fi universe, so we don't really have. There's transportation, but there's nothing like a car we would think of. He's strong enough.
Are his arms too small?
No.
I can't drive.
Why did I get T-Rex hands? No. He's trying to feed himself. He's like, I can't reach.
In my mind, I imagine somewhere there's this dinosaur's body with a human head, and the human head's just like, well, this sucks.
That would be hilarious. That could be like Superman has Bizarro Superman. You could have Bizarro Dinosaur Man, where it's the human-headed T-Rex. I love it. We're onto something here. That could be
there's the sequel.
You know how Marvel used to do the What If comics? Yeah. Do What If Dinosaur Man was opposite?
That's a really great idea.
There we have it. That could be your hard copy issues that support the webtoon comic. Sweet.
Now, besides that, though, you're actually now working with our very own Dominic on a brand new project.
Yeah, we're very excited about this. We have a officially licensed Roddy Piper comic book. It's called The Kilted Avenger. And it'll be coming out hopefully within the next year. We're running our Indiegogo campaign. We're going to launch that at New York Comic Con in a few weeks.
Okay.
And when you say it's officially licensed, you're actually working with the family.
Yeah, they're
directly involved.
Katie is directly involved.
And who is Katie for those listening?
Katie is Roddy Piper's wife. Katie Toombs. And she's going to appear in the book. She has a small role.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is actually a project he expressed a desire for prior to him passing, right? Isn't this, he wanted like a superhero type?
That I'm not sure of.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm making that up.
Well, the way this came about...
For some reason I thought that.
The way this came about is that I'm known for my wrestling art, and I had reached out to Ryan Barkin of Pro Wrestling Tees to see if I could start working with him to do some comic-themed T-shirt stuff. And he came back at me and he's like, would you want to do a comic book? Is that something that, do you do that or you just do the regular art? And of course, I've been doing comics for a while off and on and jumped at the opportunity for this. And that initial pitch led to what is now Roddy Piper, The Kilted Avenger, written by Dom and illustrated by myself.
And how did Dominic get involved? Or Dominic, you can pipe in too if you want to.
Yeah, Eric and Ryan contacted me, and I was very excited about it. It was a surreal moment, There was at WrestleMania 3 when Roddy wrestled at that. We were I was so high up on the Silverdome I could touch the ceiling. That's how bad our seats were. But I remember.
So you had the euchre deck.
Yeah, but I was really excited and very happy with the opportunity.
Yeah,
I floated Dom's name because we've been getting to know each other for a while, and he's basically a really good encyclopedia of wrestling. And comics now is in a state of flux. We've got this pushback where there's a lot of independents who are really trying to make a good product, and then the mainstream product is selling very poorly.
Well, it's almost as if the mainstream product is trying to produce a bad product.
Yeah. It's like
actively trying.
I'm sure for their perspective, they think what they're doing is justified. But again, if the sales aren't there, you're trying to run a business. And I don't want to get into too much of that because I can go down a rabbit hole. But for this book, I'm a wrestling fan. Dom's a wrestling fan. We're making this story for fans of Roddy Piper, for comic book fans. So it doesn't have some sort of ulterior agenda other than being something that you can pick up, read, and have a good time with.
That's the part I really enjoyed. There's two fans making this book. It wasn't somebody that's like, all right, I got hired to do this. Okay, let me learn about Roddy Piper, and we'll go from there. These are two guys, an illustrator and the writer that jumped at this chance. I think that's why it's going to work really well.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's the most exciting about it. Is I'm not into wrestling as I used to be, but I was during the era of Hulkamania, Roddy Piper. Piper was always one of my favorites, and to see you guys creating this new book, I'm like, yeah, you guys know the character, you know who the guy was, not just like I said, you got to learn about it. Because that's the problem with some of these books on somebody else, and especially if you're trying to create a superhero book. It's like, well, I really never read any of that stuff, so I'll just kind of get the gist of it and go from there. You guys are already well versed on who the person was, the character as well as the man.
Right.
Well, Piper was such a perfect heel at that time. And for those, if you don't know, heel is the bad guy. He was a perfect heel at the time. Like his Piper's Pit, I think to this day they have not been able to come close to how good Piper's Pit was with the interviews, but also setting up storylines. That was such a perfect platform for them to set up storylines moving forward. Where you had the infamous Jimmy Snooker moment with that, and with the pineapple, or the coconut, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the coconut. Yeah,
hit Jimmy Snooker with a coconut.
Yeah, like so many great things happened on Piper's Pit that were iconic now.
Well, it was. I mean, it kind of leads to even to now. If we look, people, when you see him walking around the Comic Cons like we do, there's still people to this day, even though he's passed, still wearing the Hot Rod shirt, still buying Hot Rod
absolutely.
shirts. And we talked to him, when they talk about how much of a heel he was on the show, how great he was as the bad guy. You know, Piper's Pit definitely was the epitome of wrestling in the 80s for all of us.
Well, and even now his name has gone forward through Ronda Rousey, because she became friends with him, and he kind of officially gave her the title. And when he passed, the family kind of allowed her to continue on that.
Yeah, I've noticed. I've caught that a little bit. And I've seen people walk around with similar design on that.
Rowdy Rousey.
Yeah.
Say that 3 times fast.
Don't forget about his film career.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
They Live is one of the best cult classic movies of all time.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
And its message was just as poignant today as it was when it was made.
Maybe even more so. Yeah, it definitely was. So
there's going to be a lot of those things throughout the book. Basically, the story is kind of like Roddy Piper plays this. He's playing himself in the book, and during the day he is a talk show host, which is like a very rowdy, Jerry Springer type talk show environment you could imagine. And then by night he's a vigilante.
Because what the official title is
Kilted Avenger.
The Kilted Avenger.
Roddy Piper, Kilted Avenger.
Do we ever find out what he wears under the kilt? Is that the answer?
I have no idea why Scott is so curious about what is under.
Well, that's always that. They even have the song, don't they?
We have a joke in there.
We do have a joke in there, and it relates to that other movie that he was in. Was it Lords of Frogtown or something? What was the title of that?
Yeah. God, comes to Frogtown. Are you kidding me?
I guess Dominic doesn't know everything.
Hell comes to Frogtown.
Hell comes to Frogtown.
There you go. I would not ever guess that. I didn't even hear that.
Actually, I've never seen that one.
Movie.
Really? I never even heard of it.
Yes.
Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Check that out.
The costumes are just classic. Like Jim Henson type, but not as good in a great way.
Do they reach the level of acting you had in your big role with the alien Otis? Was it the Otis Files?
Oh God!
Does it achieve?
Why'd you bring that up?
Because I love it, and that will forever be in my memory.
Yeah, it was a classic.
I'll have to look that up.
We have all kinds of little Easter eggs throughout the book that I think are going to be a lot of fun.
That's cool.
People that are fans are really going to appreciate. And
that's where having you two involved in this is so nice, because A, you're huge fans. B, you have a respect for the history of the genre,
right?
And those inside jokes that the hardcore fan, when they're reading, they'll be able to say like, "Oh, okay, these guys get it."
Yeah.
And some great surprise appearances from other wrestlers and wrestling personalities that we're not revealing that right
No.
Now, just from a side note, when you have these personalities appear, do you have to get permission from those personalities?
It depends on the contract, because we approached a few who they had to make sure, because there's different types of contracts, and really we're always talking about, well, if it's okay with WWE, that's pretty much the way it is. So WWE has a Legends contract, and then they have their standard form contract, and then they have like their performer contract, and then they have like a contract for backstage work. And like, for example, someone like Sergeant Slaughter, we wanted to have him, but because he's
got the Legends.
He's got the Legends, and he has the backstage contract. It's too many places to check through to see if it's something he could even do. Like, he's not allowed to do radio interviews because of Hasbro. There's something to do with his contract with Hasbro.
Wow.
That's just because he's part of G.I. Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So with a lot of these guys who have been big names, they've got a lot of contractual obligations, and so it's kind of a...
Isn't that weird, though, that they become so owned by their contracts that even to just, I want to talk to you. Nope, can't. I'm barred from even talking.
Well, one wrestler was giving us problems, and Eric just got angry and put him through a table, and then he signed the paper, right?
Well, see, that's why you do it.
Well, it's like
we'll find out in the book.
Hopefully it wasn't that special suplex that you
That's
talked
how you
about
handle
there.
things in KFAB,
Well, I mean, those contracts, while they are very real, people, they've joked about in movies, like, I think it was like, was it the Jerry Maguire? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't sign that card because I have an exclusive contract with this other company. Right. It's actually true. They can't sign certain products. They can't do different things because they have so many different contracts comics going different ways.
Well, and the unfortunate part about that is then from the fan perspective, like, oh, that guy's such a jerk. He didn't do this. But they're contractually obligated to follow certain... the companies put them under these restrictions. Not that they...
No, but it's part of them making a living. I mean, it's part of their job. It's their non-compete clause, basically.
So without giving names, like you're talking about these different levels of contracts, what when you hear they have a certain contract and like if you hear a Legends contract, they're probably out if it's a Legends contract, right? That's a very restrictive one, isn't it?
For the most part, but it depends on the character that's covered in Legends contract. So if somebody has their own character, they could still do stuff with that. But if there's anything that's appeared
Mick Foley, he was known as quite a few different characters. So certain characters might be limited.
Yeah.
So you might not be able to interview him as Mankind, but you could interview him as someone else.
Yeah.
Not many wrestlers have 4 personas,
or at least 4 successful ones.
Right.
But that's a good example of like, well, they could be their own self, their own named person saying something, but they couldn't do it under their stage name.
So he could. So like Kane, you could probably interview as the dentist or whatever he was. But you can't interview him as the Big Red Machine.
Well, Mayor Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah. What was his first? Wasn't the dentist?
It was something along
Isaac
those lines.
Yankum.
Yeah. Oh, that was it. Yankum. He would pull your teeth out, right?
Yeah. Really deep character.
To this day, I think Kane might be my favorite, but masked before he was masked. Masked Kane was always my favorite. I loved him. Him and the Undertaker together was a great bit, but that's a side note. In case you're wondering, I know everybody's wondering who him and Hogan were. I love when Kane does the Hogan and Rock impression.
Oh yeah,
that's classic.
The Canaanites.
The Canaanites. Yeah.
I know too much.
Now you guys are gonna be launching an Indiegogo fund.
Yes.
Do we have an idea when that's going to start?
It's going to start New York Comic Con. That's going to be the official launch. We're going to do
November,
October.
October, first weekend of October.
Okay.
So we'll probably do like a Facebook Live launch of the Indiegogo page from the show floor. That's at least my plan. I don't know exactly how feasible it'll be because connectivity issues and whatnot. But that's really the plan.
And then how long is the campaign going to go on for?
We haven't quite dotted all of those I's yet, but I imagine it'll be a limited, maybe 45, I don't know, whatever the limited run.
30 to 45, probably.
That's somewhere around there. And then...
and this will be the initial way to not just support it, but also get the product when it comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be the first people to get the books.
Right. Now, we haven't gotten into length of the book. Is it going to be like an issue or is it going to be like a graphic novel?
This is a 52-page graphic novel.
Okay, so it's a good size.
Yeah,
and it'll be a standalone story,
it's pretty much self-contained, so if there's obviously we'd like to do more with the storyline, but if that doesn't become an option, this will still stand on its own just fine.
Okay, I think that's a good thing. That's what I was curious myself, because you get a lot of these Kickstarter type, Indiegogo type comics, and it's the first chapter, and then you never see anything else. But knowing that they're going to get a full story, I think is a good way to go on this.
Yeah, a lot of people like to know they're getting that full thing. So
one of the neat things that we have coming up for updates is whenever we do some updates, we're going to have a lot of talent on camera telling an anecdote about how they remember Roddy Piper.
That's going to be nice.
We did a bunch of interviews at StarCast, and we got some really good names on that.
Any ideas yet what any of the rewards are going to be?
I know for certain we'll probably do something like $25. You get a signed copy of the book. There might be a $50 option that comes with a sketch or exclusive print, something like that.
I think you should do like a $1,000 option, and Dominic will come to your house and watch wrestling with you.
For $1,000, Dominic will come and challenge your bush. He'll fight your shrubbery for $1,000.
Oh, no. You brought that up.
That will always...
I don't want to lose again.
It'll be the new Survivor Series. It'll be Dominic versus what type of tree.
You could be what was the Brooklyn Brawler of the shrubbery matches where you
he took on what was it? The Bush. It was the Bush at Motor City, and then you took on the Tumbleweed in Phoenix.
Who was the guy? Who was the guy that never won? It wasn't Lanny Poffo. It was when he pat himself on the back. Who was the guy who used to pat himself on the back?
I don't know, like a jobber.
He was a jobber. He would always take on like the new guy who was meant to become a star.
Was that something else Snow did? Because I know he was the Job Squad. He was a big job.
He's talking like 80s.
Oh, okay.
80s.
Yeah, I think
he would pat himself on the
he
back.
had a regular name, right? Like Josh Smith,
something like that.
Yeah,
but
I know what you're talking about.
He would always lose. He never won a match. But
that's me. You're saying
that's you for shrubbery.
Okay. Great.
But the guy who used to pat himself on the back, he became known as losing all the time and always patting himself on the back. So he even had shirts where there was like a handprint on the back.
Well, see, Dom's building his own. He started with the Bush. He's taking on the Tumbleweed. He's moving on. Eventually, he wants to get to battling Moss Man.
Moss Man. Swamp Thing. Him versus Swamp Thing.
You start with no wins. There's only one way to go, but that's what I'm.
We do have one perk that we're really excited about. I'm not sure what the price level is going to be of it, but the beginning of the story opens up with Roddy Piper as a talk show host. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a scene built in there where you're going to see the audience members reacting, and we want to be able to draw
people into the audience.
Yeah, people into the audience.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Any talk with maybe having the estate donate something for it to help make it successful? No?
I mean,
any official
it's
Roddy?
Possible. We might get some stuff from Pro Wrestling Tees as well.
Oh, that'd be
Ryan
cool.
mentioned that.
Yeah,
Maybe
Pro Wrestling Tees is basically, they're responsible for helping us with the licensing of this, and they are the official distributor of it. So
there may be something like that.
Yeah, once the Indiegogo campaign is done and fulfilled, and that helps us pay the bills, you'll basically be able to order it through Pro Wrestling Tees.
Now, another thing I want to point out too, with Kickstarter, Indiegogo, sometimes people have some not so good experiences donating to causes because they never happen. But both of you are very experienced in this field. You guys produce product. You have a record of launching and fulfilling your goals. So it's not like if somebody donates to this, you're donating to a project that's going to finish.
Yep.
Well, that's another reason why I really wanted Dom on this, not just because of his extensive wrestling fandom knowledge, but he's put out 3 graphic novels of about the same caliber and size, plus the Donnybrook comic, and it shows that he's able to deliver. So that that kind of credibility is it's hard to come by.
You guys thwarted my plan. We live in Detroit here. We're close to the border. I was going to take the money and run off to Canada. Now I can't.
The exchange rate's not that good.
It's not. It's not. Yeah. They do have coins like Super Mario Brothers.
There you go.
Is there a Canadian version of WWE out there that you could make a living on next?
Yeah, it's weird though. They got like 9 pins in their bowling. They got.
I believe it's the WWA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, bad Canadian. I apologize to our Windsor.
All right, we got to start wrapping up here. Eric, where can our listeners find you at shows? You got something coming up?
I don't have anything coming up till New York Comic Con. I'm taking a much needed break to let my body heal.
And then, so definitely, where can they find you online at?
Well, you can find me at my handle is @Dreaded Dinosaur on most social media. That includes Twitter, Instagram. I think you can use it to find my Facebook page now, and Twitch and YouTube and all that.
Awesome.
Erik Hodson Illustration is the name of the Facebook page, and that's where I'm most active.
Fantastic. We'll get some stuff up on our social media, also through Odd Musings, where they can find you for Dreaded Dinosaur Man. We'll be helping promote you guys with the Indiegogo when it comes out, so we'll talk more about that. But once the book does come out, we want to have you come back and talk more about the book and get into that a little bit.
Awesome.
And then this weekend, I will be at the Cincinnati Comic Expo along with Dominic, so you can come actually talk to Dominic about wrestling.
Yep.
I'll be at table C2 in Artist Alley. Dominic, where are you going to be at?
D18 in Artist Alley.
All right.
So make sure you pick up your copies of Donnybrook.
And unless something changes, unfortunately, Scott's not with us this weekend.
I'm not going to be there. I'm a little sad.
He's going to message him again today and see if something opened up.
Hopefully something last minute.
But last week's guest, Kevin Minert, will be with us.
Yep. But if I'm not going to be in Cincinnati, which I probably won't, but if something opens up, I will. I'll be seeing The Predator this weekend. I've seen that Friday night, so I look forward to seeing the new
I'll have to try to see it when I get back, and then we can talk about it next week a little bit.
Yeah.
But until then, Dominic, take us out, man.